Thank you very much for the invitation. Last year we were here and impressed by this massive conference, and we are very happy that we can show our own data today. And I will talk about the first data from our PATRE registry and a short questionnaire on readiness for clinical trial. What is PATRE? PATRE is patient-based phenotyping and evaluation of therapy for rare epilepsies. It's a project we started already in 2019 with a German self-support group, and we originally only evaluated drugs for SYNGAP1, and this was actually very successful, and we already had there over 250 patients evaluating drugs for SYNGAP1, and we wanted to make this stronger and create a registry out of that, and therefore we applied for European funding and created the EURAS project, which is a European network for neurodevelopmental rhizopathies. And this is because in Europe you can't get funding if you're only doing research on one disease. So we looked for partners and doing this research together with groups researching on the Costello syndrome, the Noonan syndrome, and the CFC syndrome. And we found very many other European partners, 16 partners, I will show only briefly, and a patient board, so the patient organizations from Europe are all involved as well. It's 12 Syngap organizations from Europe. And this week we do celebrate. We have our 500th patient included. The biggest group is still the German group, but we also have a very big Spanish group and a big French group and a big Italian group, and also the Polish are very active. Thank you very much to all patients which are taking part in our study. Here again is the proportions. And now I want to show some first results, only exemplary. So to make it clear, our project is a 4-year project, and in the first 2 years we collect the standardized data set. And this data set was created in a multidisciplinary process with clinicians, patients, and geneticists to find the most relevant data points. And we have data points on seizure, development, mental function, behavior, nutrition and growth, and malformations and physical abnormalities. And there we all defined HPOs, and these are then transformed to questions in an app with question sections on epilepsy, development, behavior, nutrition and growth, and malformations. And these are now the first results. Here you can see all the HPOs, and they are grouped by frequency. And the interesting thing is, in contrast to other studies, we do also know this area, whereas the white here. So we do know exactly when patients do not have some features. So for example, down here is hearing abnormality, and we know for sure that it's very rare in SYNGAP1. But we do know that 100% do have an atypical behavior. So the autism spectrum and behavioral things are up here. I zoom in a little. So they are the most frequent things. And in our group, seizure is only at about 75% of the patients, which is a bit lower than the US data. We think it might be that we have a bit larger group of light cases of SYNGAP1, which are not so often in clinics, and that's why we have a lower frequency of seizures in our group. And for each of these HPOs, we also have qualitative data. For example, for seizures, we have subjective questions. At what age they are the most frequent? So all parents were sure that, or more than 50% were sure that the seizures were most severe in the age between 3 and 5. Or we have data on eyelid myoclonia. There you can see that nearly half of them never had eyelid myoclonia in their life, but only 12% where the eyelid myoclonia was very frequent. Or we have other data like quality of life. So the behavior abnormalities like temper tantrums, that is when patients to get very aggressive suddenly. they have a very strong effect on the quality of life for the families when they are the most severe, and they have still a very moderate effect on the quality of life at the time where the questionnaire was filled. We also have HPO-related data on the milestones, so the average Syngap patient reaches the ability to sit with 12 months and the ability to walk with 28 months. And the proportion of patients which do learn two-word sentences does it in average with 47 months in our group. We also have standardized scores, but we are starting only with that in our project. This is more planned now for the second part of the project. So the PATRE score, and there we can see that the patients are in the 4th percentile in the daily activities domain. So everything below the 5th percentile is not normal. So there they are quite severely affected. In the mobility domain, they are not very good, but they are still in the normal section above the 5th percentile. Social cognitive, of course, is also severely affected, and what was quite astonishing in the responsibility domain, they are also still in the normal area, but of course not in the good part, but still normal. We also have genetic data for all of this, so we do know which mutations the patients have and where they are located. So here you can see this balloon here is the most frequent mutation in our group. So the bigger the balloon and the higher the balloon, the more often it's in our group. And here you can see what type of mutation it is. And now I want shortly just to show what we can do with our app and our registry. So we wanted to know the opinion on clinical trials very fast, and therefore asked in a new questionnaire, and in 2 weeks we got answers from 197 participants. So it was also in our app, and it was very positive, so more than 75% were interested in participating in a clinical trial, and only 6% said clearly no. And regarding the early phase of a clinical trial, it was of course lower, but there was a big unsure group, but it's very clear for such a trial you need more information, and we just had a general question, but it's still generally very positive. With intrathecal administration, we also had a big unsure and group, but still the yes and the yes, but if the drug is exceptionally effective group are the really vast majority. So if we have good data, I think this is tolerated as well. And what was also very positive was the ability, the willingness of the patients to travel. We were very astonished that the biggest group would be willing to travel for a clinical trial more than 500 kilometers. So this was also very positive. And yeah, just as an outlook at the moment, we are working on combining all this data to facilitate planning of clinical trials. And yeah, I want to thank all the participating families and the organizers of this great event. And now open for questions.